Okay, so we've been talking quite a bit about Earth ascension on this channel, and usually for shorthand, we use the term 5D or the fifth dimension for people who are moving into enlightenment. I've never seen anybody convert 5D, the fifth dimension, to the scale of human consciousness, which it should be, because you need to know at what point does 5D, what's the equivalent on the scale of human consciousness. And if you can muscle test, you could see if you're allowed to do it. We're not allowed. I just did a muscle test and I'm not giving it. There is a conversion factor. I'm not giving anything away by telling you my muscle testing has been taken away, and I'm just going to leave it at that. So if you are able to do muscle testing, that's what I would do, some interesting muscle tests to see if the fifth dimension is related to like calibration level 600 piece on the scale of human consciousness, or is it is it even convertible? I don't know. It's just that there's a lot of people that are talking about a quantum leap to a new Earth. It's like it's not taking, well, some people say taking this Earth and gradually moving into a new Earth. Some people say they've already experienced it from time to time when they're looking at this version of Earth and it's just something changes in their perception, and all of a sudden it's a different Earth. It's different, and then they've come back to, I'm still going to call this let's go with 4D, because we're sort of supposed to be moving towards 5D, but there's still a lot of what I call 3D people. So that's my initial guess, is 5D is 600 on the scale of human consciousness. And that's just a guess, because I can't muscle test it. But just that was the first thing that came to my head. Don't have to go with that. So to be at peace, you're going to have to be higher in consciousness than unconditional love at 540. Now, as I've said before, Dr. David R. Hawkins, who is the expert on the scale of human consciousness, said every human on the planet ought to set 540 as their goal, their personal goal for their consciousness in this lifetime. Some teachings, that talk about enlightenment, and the scale of human consciousness, enlightened states begin at 700, and full enlightenment, I don't know, maybe it's going to be 1000. So what does that mean? The difference between 540 and 600, is there a big difference? No. But 540 is what Dr. Hawkins said you could do in this lifetime. A Western person who is a serious spiritual student. He didn't say 700, an enlightened state. Even though some people get it in their head, I'm going to become enlightened in this lifetime. Are there some teachings that are going to give it to you? Yes. Some Eastern methods say if you follow this, you could hit enlightenment in this lifetime, with a huge caveat. And the average person is not going to hear the caveat. The caveat is you're going to go insane. Sure, if it happens, you'll get your enlightenment at 700. Let's go 700, but you're going to go insane. Are you willing to go insane? How insane? So insane that you'll be saying to people, take me to the hospital, I'm feeling insane. Why? I don't know. People know what they feel like when they feel normal. People know when they feel sick. And I don't know. It's probably just going to be, that's what I'm going to go with. People are going to say, I feel insane. I feel like I'm totally mentally ill. I just don't feel, this is not, unbelievable. Would it be like, I can't say. But that would be the caveat that I would say if you're going to go and attempt to hit an enlightened state in this lifetime as an average person. What if you had been in previous lifetimes working on your consciousness, raising your consciousness? Well, in that case, you'd have to have a muscle test. You'd have to have a muscle tester there investigating these past lives to see what was your level of consciousness in these past lives and where you are right now. Because it's going to be, why would you have a different level of consciousness in this lifetime than previous lifetimes? Well, most of these gurus say pretty much whatever work you do in this lifetime is going to carry over to future lifetimes. But the way that you're set up in the next lifetime, when you got born in this lifetime, are you set up to have a higher consciousness than last lifetime or a lower consciousness? And maybe you came in as a infant with a high level of consciousness, but then just living in our Western society, it dropped. Why? I think it's just because the way our Western society is, the level of brainwashing, it's going to hit you hard if you came in with a high level of consciousness into an average Joe family. If you had a high level of consciousness in the past lifetime, and let's say you were born into a family of Tibetan yogis living in Dharamsala, India, you would have a much easier time. Just because of the family environment with people who are interested in enlightenment and have teachings and have a support system there, and they're not expecting you to be a Western teenager, then you would have a much better, easier time. So, all in all, I was getting into this idea because I think there are people who, let's go with are spiritually advanced versus the average Western person. Let's say, I don't know, let's say they calibrated 200 or more. When they get to the fifth dimension, are they going to really be clear of their 3D life? I mean, if it just happened in an instant and they had a sudden enlightenment. No. If you had an enormous jump like that, you're going to be out of your element. Most likely, it's just going to be everyone around you is going to pull you back down to a lower level of consciousness. So as for people who think they're ready for 5D, well, muscle test yourself or get someone to muscle test your consciousness level against the scale of human consciousness. And then what I would do is I would make up a list of things that you are unwilling to do. In other words, what are your fears? And, well, why? Because fear is the root of all low conscious things that stick to you. Well, for example, if I made a bonfire on the beach and let the bonfire burn down so it was hot coals, and then I raked out the hot coals for, I don't know, let's go with 6 feet of hot coals. And then I said to you, okay, get your shoes and socks off, and barefoot I want you to walk across 6 feet of hot coals from the bonfire. Would you do it? If you say no, I'm going to say you are not ready for higher dimensional living. It doesn't mean you're going to be a daredevil, or yes, you're going to be a daredevil. I'm going to say I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. I just have the feeling that there's a lot of things people are still afraid of, even if they've been doing their so-called spiritual work to prepare for 5D. And I'm going to say, you're not really ready. Dr. Hawkins said pretty much you had to be willing to surrender your life. Now, if you're in the army and you're going into combat, you pretty much said, I'm willing to put my life on the line for this operation. You signed up for it. So it's not like there's people that, are afraid of death. These people they know the possibilities there. So it's people who are afraid of death, still in some ways. People who are afraid of, no one really can say. So am I trying to say that, well, I'm trying to tell you what Dr. Hawkins says in a nutshell. You have to be willing to surrender yourself in every way. And when I tell you, do you have a queasy stomach when I say you have to walk across 6 feet of hot coals? Then you have work to do. It's just that, the ego mind of an average Western person is going to be saying, that's hot. What if I said I went first? And, I walked across the hot coals, and then I showed you my bare feet, and there was no burns on the bottom of my feet, but on the top of my foot, on top of one of my toes, there was a very small burn. I said, it feels like it's a little bit burnt. It's not like, maybe it's got not even really a blister, it's just, the skin feels kind of scaly, like it feels like the skin was, a little bit cooked. Would you go after me if I did that? Some people might. Some people might say, I don't care how many people do it, I'm not doing it. So, if we ever do get into the so-called fifth dimension, what are you dragging with you into 5D? It's basically your hang-ups. In old-time psychology, like in the 1960s, 1970s, they used to use this word hang-up. Someone's got hang-ups. It's basically non-negotiable things for you. So, someone's got full-blown COVID-19, and they're in a hospital room. Would you walk into that room without a mask? Would you be willing to walk into the room wearing just one of those paper masks, the blue paper ones that everyone's walking around with? Would you be willing to wear one of those cloth masks? Not the paper one, but the ones, you can buy it at the store. Those cloth ones that people wear. Would you wear that into a room when you know someone had COVID-19? An active case. Or would you insist on something stronger? Something stronger than the paper mask? I want to be in like the plastic cover thing and maybe a paper mask underneath. I don't know. Like, are you afraid of COVID-19? Are you afraid? You don't want to get this. It's like, I'll do anything, but I won't walk into that room with someone with COVID-19. And you might be saying, well, it just seems dumb, to walk into a room where I know. But this is not the question. It's not for the average person. We're trying to get at, what are your hang-ups? Are there some people that would walk into a room with somebody with COVID-19, knowing that it was COVID-19 in there, on a dare? Oh yeah, you probably find teenagers that would do that on a dare. Some of them, just because it's, you would call it naive, being naive and just being, young and dumb. But other people knowing what the possible risks are, what benefit would you get into walking into a room with someone with COVID-19? What if you were a nurse in the hospital? You're a nurse in the hospital and they've assigned you the COVID-19 unit. Are you going to say, I'm a nurse, but I'm not going in there? Are you going to say, paper mask, and if they're coughing, because what about your eyes? I mean, your eyes are open. What if you walked in, you got it hit your eye and you got COVID-19? Could you handle that? What about other diseases? What if someone's got tuberculosis? Are you willing to walk into that room? The example that I want to give you is, the famous gurus from India. There was a pair of them that were around about the same time. Nisargadatta Maharaj and Ramana Maharshi. And when you read, the interviews with these two men, they pretty much don't give a rat's ass about the physical body that they're occupying. They don't give a rat's ass about it. They don't see it as part of them. It's basically, well, it's here and it's usable for me to talk to you, but it's not who I am. They would consider the physical human form to be like a set of clothes that you put on in the morning. You don't care too much about your clothes. They don't care too much about the body. So they're in a totally different category of consciousness than the average person. Really. The average person does care about their body. They want to hang on to it and keep it in good shape. So there's a huge transformation of consciousness, higher levels of consciousness. I'm going to say those two, I don't know, you could look it up. I think it's probably somewhere on the internet. I might have a copy of it in Transcending the Levels of Consciousness. No, man, not there. Maybe there was one book where Dr. Hawkins did a bunch of calibrations of all kinds of stuff, and probably in there. But let's say 700 on the scale of human consciousness, an enlightened state for those two men. That's just going to give you an example. At one time, Ramana Maharshi, they told him that he had cancer, not sure what kind of cancer, but cancer in one of his arms. And, his devotees wanted him to go and see, like Western kind of doctors, cancer doctors, try and cure the cancer. And I think Maharshi went along, Maharashi, whatever. Somebody used to give me a hard time about my pronunciation. But I think he went along with it maybe the first little bit of time because they were just so insistent. But, he really was not concerned about the cancer because, as I said, he didn't consider the body to be what he was. And, he was an advanced age. I don't know if that would make a real big difference, but he didn't seem concerned about it. He wasn't all up in arms about curing the cancer of this body that he was associated with. So in the end, you might be saying, well, after all this, why would I want these higher states of consciousness? It seems like an awful lot of work, a lot of daredeviling. I don't know. I think I'm trying to go to an extreme to give you these ideas. You know, the average yogi that meditates for a lifetime, they're not doing daredevil things. They're not. It's just, you know, unless you think like living in a Himalayan cave for years and years and years, you might think that is extreme. But it's not like they're going and finding, like, you know, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco and they're going to go jump off it. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm trying to just show you that the state of mind that they're in is so different than yours. And again, you're going to keep saying, oh, why do I want it? Why do I want it? And it's simply, maybe you don't want it. Maybe you don't want it. Maybe you're happy with, you know, you think, you know, I've had a pretty good life, you know, I'm living, I live in the United States, you know, I got 2 cars, I got a house, I got a month's vacation every year, I've got a family, and it's a pretty good life, you know, no problem with it. Would you do it over again? Yeah, I do the same kind of life over again and again. It's just like, you know, I like this kind of life. So if you're in that kind of a state of mind, who's going to convince you to go for higher enlightenment? Only perhaps just the challenge of doing it. It's like a new challenge that you haven't done before. But, you know, if you're happy living a Western lifestyle, you're probably going to say, you know, that's quite a challenge. But, you know, I pretty much like, you know, I like going fishing on the weekend with my buddies. I like having beer, you know. When I was a teenager, I liked to chase women. I'm pretty happy with things like this kind of a lifestyle. Then, you know. So what's going to happen with people that are like this, if we are going to what we call like the 5th dimension? Are they going to be forced to change consciousness? Some commentators say yes. Some commentators say because the planet itself is changing consciousness, low levels of consciousness, whatever the cutoff's going to be, are not going to be allowed on this planet. So you might have to go and do your, you know, your American dream on another star system, maybe another galaxy. But maybe you're not going to care. It's like, whatever, I don't care where you put me. If it's of a similar lifestyle to this, I'm happy with it. Dr. Hawkins said an average, let's say the average American person, the guy that I'm just talking about, the average American living, you know, like a Western American lifestyle, can expect on the scale of human consciousness to rise 4 points in one lifetime. That's not very much. So doing nothing doesn't raise your consciousness, you know, if you think 4 points is worth it after a whole lifetime. But I don't think I can make a convincing case to the vast majority of Western people. I do not think I can make a convincing case for you to pursue higher consciousness. if you've got all that stuff, you know, if you've got the house, you've got the 2 cars, you've got a happy family that you live with, you know, an average family, you know, ups and downs, I don't think I can make a case for you. Because what are the benefits, you know, why? The why of it all. I mean, I can say, well, because you're an eternal soul and, you know, advancing in your consciousness over time is basically what your soul has been given. And you're going to go, sorry, I didn't want all that crap. I don't want to go insane. I don't want all these changes. No, I don't want it. I think that's what people are going to say. Somebody says, well, what if there were like spiritual tricks or something involved? Well, I don't think so. I don't think so. So why do certain people pursue this? They're just odd. Just odd, strange people that are just different than everybody else. So why do we talk about this so much? Well, I don't know. It's just, you know, corner the market on this very obscure thing that, you know. Are there any benefits to being at higher states of consciousness? The benefits are... From time to time, you might have some strange experiences, you know. Strange experiences, and you're a junkie for strange experiences. That's about it. So what else can you do with your life besides, pursue spiritual enlightenment? Oh, there's so many things to do on planet Earth. So many possibilities. Maybe you think it's more likely for you to become a millionaire. A million's not very much these days. Is it easier to become a millionaire than to become an enlightened person? Spiritually enlightened. Way easier. Like I said, $1 million isn't very much these days. A lot of houses or a lot of big cities, they start, like in Vancouver, Canada, if you want a separate detached house, they're going to start over $1 million, probably 1.2 million for just a tear down dump. So $1 million is nothing. But, you know, if you're only making $22,000 a year, maybe you think that that's a big thing. Everything's all relative. But is it easier for... Yes. If you're working as a checkout person at Walmart right now, it's way easier for you to become a millionaire in this lifetime than it is for you to become spiritually enlightened. Let me tell you that. But if you had the equal level of dedication for those two things, I'm still going to say it's way easier for you to become a millionaire. It's just that there are people around who have done it already. Gone from being a Walmart checkout person to being a millionaire. I mean, there's some easy paths to it. If you're really good at sales and you're selling, those houses in Vancouver, Canada, well, real estate is one way that you can make money. A lot of people don't make any money at all at real estate. Most realtors starve. But there's enough people who have done well in real estate that it's possible for you to become a millionaire. Yes. So what do you really want in your lifetime? Do you want to be a millionaire selling houses? Or do you want something really offbeat and unusual and, something that no one in your own city knows how to get to? They don't. People pursuing spiritual enlightenment, well, not very many. And, people that go to yoga every night, that's hatha yoga. It's basically athleticism. It's not the same thing as pursuing spiritual enlightenment. So, if you're really an oddball and you're looking for a challenge and you're not interested in money whatsoever, and you're looking for perhaps strange experience, I'm not going to guarantee you're going to have strange experiences, but I'm going to say probably you're going to have very, very strange experiences. And, some yoga teachers are honest. The Hatha yoga teachers, Kundalini yoga teachers, and some of them are honest and might give you a warning up front and say, you do these kind of moves every day, these kind of yoga practice, even Hatha yoga, Kundalini yoga, you might have a really big change in your consciousness, even though you're playing with your body. And you might find that you feel like you've gone crazy and it's a Kundalini thing, which is all related to human consciousness. So, if you're out there doing yoga every day, yoga poses and everything, I think you should be warned by your teacher that something really weird could happen with your mind because of it. And if that scares you, you should stop doing yoga. Take up walking, nature walking, or walking a dog or something. Because it's not likely to provoke the same kind of weird thing that a Kundalini rise might provoke in you. Pretty much, people don't know the full story of anything they get into, and people don't generally worry about it. Let's say you have been doing Hatha yoga for a few years. Should you stop? Yes. If this is the first time you've heard about this Kundalini rising thing, never heard of this before, you should stop. You should stop, and then you should go and do a great deal of research into people who have had this rise in Kundalini. Talk to 20 people who think that they've had Kundalini rising. Probably, and pick people from like the place where you do yoga. Find them all over the world through the internet. And get their stories. And some of their stories might be, I'm not enjoying what's going on in my life. And, when you hear these stories, then you gotta be, are you prepared for that? I don't know if you can be prepared, but, at least you're going in with your eyes open. I just don't think that people realize how weird their life could get. And if you've got a bunch of other things on the go, you're married and you've got small children and, you got your job and you got all this stuff. Are you prepared to sacrifice all that stuff because you have a sudden Kundalini rising thing because I can see that a Kundalini rising could cause you to have to leave your job because you can't do it anymore. Any kind of job, whether it's a mental job or a physical job, could be. Might be so that you're incapable of looking after your children. Why? Because, you're too busy dealing with the high weirdness that's going on with your mind and your body. And all kinds of other weird things that could happen. So maybe you want to just stop and do nature walks until your children are 21 or something. And I don't need you anymore. traditionally, people who've become renunciates, in other words, they want to let go of all their worldly things, people like in India, they would wait until they're like 65 years of age. Basically until, it's like, this is the final segment of my life, I'm a senior citizen now I'm going to go and start doing these other things, so get everything else out of the way. And that's the reason why, is because if something happens, you may become incapacitated for doing regular things. Will things work out for the other people in your life? The answer is not necessarily. It might turn into a total shit show for them. And it would be unfair for them. You're going to have to decide that. If you're taking out life insurance on yourself, thinking, if I die, then the family's going to need a lot of money because they're going to have a lot of help in so many different ways. I don't think you can buy Kundalini Yoga insurance. I've got Kundalini rising and, I can't do any work or anything. I don't think you can buy that kind of insurance. And it's the same thing as, you dropping dead. And if it happens in a certain way, you're just not going to be, you're just not going to be there. You're not going to be able to deal with it. Little children running around or whatever, you're not going to be able to do it. So these are the fair warnings. And again, if you hear all this stuff, are you really going to want to do all this? Even if you're like 65 years old and retired, you worked and you got to the retirement age, and do you really want to have your whole mind and body go into mystery land? Most people at 65, no, I don't think so. I think most people at 65, they want to have, golf in the afternoon with their friends, and they probably want to do some traveling around the world. They really want sort of the same lifestyle they had before they stopped working, without the work that they had, but basically the same lifestyle. So in Western people, I don't think they're like the people in India. These kind of people, I don't think they're that kind of thing at all. And pretty much, people at 65 will know that certain people in their lives have already been around their age and dropped dead. So, but people generally put the thought of death right out of their head. Even in advanced age, they really don't spend a lot of time wondering about it. And, what good is it going to do you anyway? But that is going to be a major change in you when you drop your body and you wonder if you're going to keep going, or that's going to be it. The geese are getting themselves in shape because here in Canada they're going to start flying south in the next 6 weeks, I would say. So they're all around town and they're eating a lot of food and they're flying around in formation and they're getting themselves all primed up to fly south for the winter.